Alright, are we live on YouTube? We are live on YouTube. Alright, let me bring up chat real fast. There we go. Now I have chat up. I can see all the wonderful chats people have for me. I almost didn't want to start stream. I was too busy vibing to my music. Fitting for a late night stream. Just felt like doing it. Okay, let's look at what I've done since the last stream. One, I've actually put on the cloak today, so you know we're all branded. The lava lamp isn't overexposed anymore. You can actually watch it now. It's very nice. But in terms of coding that I've done, we are now hashing passwords, and we also have a random salt that is added to it. So it is now secure, irreversible, and you can't use a lookup table on it. Very nice. And also, theoretically, you even have like the thing where you can add more iterations, so it takes longer, and is theoretically secure because people can't, they can't do like just a brute force attack because their algorithm also has to be exactly the same and doing like 10,000 iterations of the hash. And that just takes a while. Though I probably would have to mess around with this number, make it bigger or smaller. It's kind of just laying out the groundwork, kind of blocking it out, so to speak. But that's not what we're working on today. Today, what we are working on is adding in a database and also using a private window so my email isn't leaked like in last stream. So let me just do that. There we go. Can I drag? I wonder if you can drag windows onto a private window. That'd be hilarious. Oh, come on. It'd be funny if you could. And kind of makes sense, though also not really. So I've decided to use SQLite. Or SQLite, however you want to pronounce that. Because gives me the benefit of the database can be stored locally and be part of the program, where the code for the database is actually included in the program itself. Which is one reason I didn't want to use like MySQL or MongoDB, is because then I'd have to have a separate program running on my server instance instead of having everything contained in one thing. So yeah, SQLite, because it's included. I've already added it into the project, I just haven't used it at all, so it's just a matter of doing that. So we're actually going to read the documentation now and figure out how to use it. So they're using the standard IO library, and we'll want to include SQLite. .h. Let's do that real fast. I should probably put this somewhere other than the HTTP folder. Have like a database. That would be smart. Nah, not yet. For now, let's just get the code working, and then if we want to, we can rip out the code for the database and put it in its own library later. So let's see, SQLite. That should do the trick. There we go. We now have the library included. Now, the two places that we want to use this are in login submit and a create account submit. Because those are the two places we're currently using JSON to store our data. So right here, this is what all the data for a user looks like. And we want to store this in an SQL database instead. So what I was doing there was just including SQLite to the, whatchamacallit, I was doing thing. Dang, my brain is not working with me. I was adding the library, linking the library, there we go. Linking the library. So we call SQLite 3. Well, we include SQLite 3.h. So we initialize a database. That's what this looks like. Alright, so this is how we open the database. We pass in, I'm guessing, the location of the database and the reference to the database. All right. Oh wait, does it just use string SQL commands? It's not like functions or anything? Interesting. Because yeah, that looks like what it's doing here, is we just get the execute command. We pass in the reference to the database. The second argument passed to the program. Then we give it the callback, which I'm guessing is the it's this function up here. So that's like the results. This is the result. Okay. 0, that's something I'll have to look at the actual H file for that. And then a reference to the error message. You know what? I think I will put this in another in a different folder. So we'll create a new file in common or directory called database, and let's actually make that lowercase all the way through. Create a new C class called database. New CMakes list. There we go. And here we will link database. That was my old SQL code. If I need to look back at it, I have it in Git, so it doesn't really matter. You can just delete it. There we go. The question is if it added this to the CMake lists of anything else. I just need to check. Oh, here we go. That was just a compiler error waiting to happen. Like literally waiting. Alright, now we are ready to start working on this. So, for the database, we need to have a dock windows. There we go. So for our database class, we are going to need a... Well, first we need to include the SQLite header. There we go. And now, first private member object. Need a pointer or reference to our database. Database context, I'm guessing, is what that is. Then, since we have these open and close arguments right here, we will definitely want to have a constructor and destructor. And finally, we want to be able to configure where the database file is stored. So we'll need to include config.h. All right, and let's just add that to our config real fast. Add a database key. And have a path. And we're just gonna say that this will be we have assets, keys. Instead of users, let's just have a database folder. And then what's the usual? Okay, it's just .db. So we'll have data.db. That'll be our database. Going back to our database.h. Create a constructor. And then I would like to maybe create a preprocessor statement that we can wrap all of the SQLite calls to, since all of these calls have like the if statement here after it. Maybe if we need to do a ton of them, then I'll put that in. For now, we'll just do like the if statements. They're all manually. Okay. Now to initialize this database, we need the database, and then need this line here. So let's copy all this and all of that. Oh joy, it decided to include the line numbers. Thank you for that. There we go. Alright, so we don't need that since we're not using command line input. So that's the return code of the call, and it's the error message. SQLite open, and then we want this to be config JSON. Database, and then I believe it was path. That'll be the path to our database file. And this will be the reference to our database context, which I have an underscore just so that we know that it's private. And why is this erroring out? I believe I imported this, which would have the functions for SQLite. Ah, it needs to be a C string. There we go. I would have needed to cast this anyway from a JSON value, so I was just wrong there. Alright, so we got our call to open the database. We have a return code, which is what I'm guessing RC stands for. We print to standard error if we can't open it for some reason. And then if so, if it's battery return 1. Oh, right. This isn't the command line. So we'll just throw a runtime error. And we'll just copy this. for now. What I'm wondering is, do I need the file to already exist? Okay, it says it will create a new one, so let's just test that out real fast. Well, actually, first I would need to initialize a database. See where to initialize database. Let's do it in main and then pass it to the server. There it is. Here we go. We got our database included, got our database initialized, and then let's pass it in right after File Manager. Now, of course, we're going to need to go and change the definition of this to... We also need to include database here. Now, in our constructor, get a database reference, DB. There we go. Right. I can't. It's a reference, so I need to initialize that out here. Like so. And in our server, we should now have access to a database. And the database is being initialized, so let's try building. Fun. Alright, so it looks like just a linking error. So target, link libraries, database, and then can privately link to SQLite. And that should fix the linking error. Ooh, fun. Unresolved external symbol, public database. Ah, okay. So the problem is that we declared a destructor in the header file, but never actually created one. So let's just do that real fast, and it's a good thing it reminded me of that, because we need to call this SQLite close database function to clean that up. 3 close. rows. There we go. Thank you for reminding me of that, compiler. Now, can we walk this time? There we go. There we go, it's working. Maybe, possibly. Maybe not. Alright, what error are you throwing? Exception. Hex code doesn't help me. Alright. So it is when we initialize the database, and it is on SQLite open. So database path. Let me check something real fast. So for some reason, my config file did not get updated. Thank you, CMake, very much for not doing your job. I think it has something to do with the multiple build targets. I don't know. But we will just manually copy that over and try running again, because I think that was the problem. Yes, that was that particular problem. Now we have a secondary problem, but can't open database, unable to open database file. So I bet what this is that the directory doesn't exist. So let's just create that. And try running again, because this says this will create a new database called test.db. So I feel like it should be able to create the file on its own. Yeah, there we go. It ran. It was just the directory didn't exist. So everything happened, but I don't see any database folder. So let's open this in Explorer and see if we can see that. Yep, there it is. It's just not showing up in our thing here for some reason. All right, awesome. Now let's try writing some test data to it, just for the fun of it. I'm guessing that will be in this guide right here. Wait a second. If I go back, SQLite execute. So I might just be able to do SQL strings, right? I want to see if there's a if there's like a more efficient way than having it have to parse strings on its convenience wrapper around SQLite prepare, step, and finalize. It allows the application to run multiple statements of SQL without having to use a lot of C code. But I want to use a lot of C code. See, it runs 0 or more UTF-8 encoded semicolon separated SQL statements passed into its second argument. In the context of the database connection, it's passed in as its first argument. Mutter, 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 mutter. Execution of the current statement stops and subsequent statements are skipped. If the fifth parameter is not null, then any error message is written into through fifth parameter return. Okay. Should invoke SQLite free on error message strings return to. Interesting. So I have to manually free error messages. That is interesting, though it makes sense since it's C, and not C++. Error message string is no longer needed if the proof. Well, let's just try it out. Now, I do know how to use SQL. I just don't remember how to do it. So, SQL create table. Just gonna do some quick brain isn't working. Some quick review. That's the word I was looking for. All right, so create table. We just want to straight up create table. So SQLite 3. Actually, let's create a function for this, since there's a lot of C stuff going on. So I just want to handle stuff in its own function. So void SQL call. And into this, we'll pass a constant string. And this string will be the command. And then also into this, we want to pass we basically want to do this code inside of here. So we need the database, which is stored in this object, the command, which we are passing in, the callback, a 0, and the error message. So I need to figure out what that 0 is. But for now, we'll do the callback just as a standard function. Maybe I'll make like a wrapper for this so it's easier to do. So like the callback, like I have a callback that calls it the easier to use callback. So we can kind of wrap that functionality away. We'll just have this one be F. Instant function. And this needs to be inside of the alligator brackets, like so. There we go. Beautiful. Now it's more beautiful. There we go. Did it get everything? Const standard function. Yeah, it looks like it did. All right, let's go back to database.h and make sure I'm including functions. Go, and now we'll go back to here. It's saying it. Oh, it's because I renamed it, which Sea Lion should have been able to tell, but I guess just it wasn't. All right, and from this callback, and it needs to be static, I think. No. The callback needs to be static. So we're just gonna copy this code over. that work? Seems to be working. It's not complaining, at least. Then cmd.cstring. And then our database is the database. Void int void pointer int char. Let's see. Can I all right, so I'm gonna do that thing I was talking about earlier. Where instead of the callback being directly passed in the function, we will pass in a nice little wrapper. So void standard, no, not standard. It needs to be this. The SQLite callback. It also needs to be static. Alright, we'll just have to make sure that this is only ever called from run thread, because we also need to have a way to pass in the callback into the callback. So we're gonna store a reference to the function as it's a callback reference. Just define this in our C file real fast. Right here above the callback. Fires and initializer. All right, because it's a reference. So I'm gonna make it a pointer instead. And this is right. This is a function. So we're gonna go here and make this a pointer instead, because we don't like ourselves. And then this callback is going to it's gonna call our callback function. Let's see, let's just dereference it, and then we can just passing the... Oh, this is so sketchy. argc, arg, gv, the column name. There we go. This is so sketchy. Alright. So then here we'll have to set callback reference equal to the address of f. Like so. Disregards qualifiers. Okay. Can I make this a constant function? I believe I can. Yep, there we go. So that works. So we're gonna print out just standard error, SQL error, then we're gonna free the error message. All right. Pass in the SQLite callback. Alright, why is it giving me an error? No matching function call. Constant character pointer. Yep, I'm giving it a character pointer. Oh, the callback has to return an int? Ah, so it does. That should clear that up. Hey, look at that, no squiggly red lines. It means it's gonna work. Maybe. Now there are no squiggly red lines. And then we're gonna return the return value of that. That all looks good. Now, here when we initialize the database, let us make a test call to our new database that we have created. I want to create a new table called users. So we're gonna do a SQL call to all right. So into this, I'm gonna say create table users. Username. Varchar. How long do we want to limit usernames to? 32 characters? 16 characters? How long is 16 characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I already lost count. Whatever. Well, we're just gonna stick with 16 for now. For the username. And we won't worry about login info at the moment. We'll have that in a separate table that links to this one. And then our callback function. I'm just gonna copy and paste this because I don't feel like typing that out. Go with that return. It now no longer has the squiggly red lines. Let's try out interface convenience wrapper around the prepare step and finalize. Okay, tell me about the callback. Tell me about the callback. First argument to the callback. Oh, so it's literally just like the offset? Interesting. I'll have to look more into that. For sure. Fourth argument to ask. An open database. SQL living. Callback function. Okay. But tell me more about this callback function. Like, what is like the not used and what are the what is this stuff? Interesting. The stream has paused on my phone. Oh no, is it paused online? Is it working here? Oh no. Oh, what? Okay. Was my stream paused for a bit there? I hope it wasn't. That wouldn't have been good. Well, I'm sure you guys in chat will tell me if it's not working. The single guy in chat. Or gal, I won't assume. It's kind of cringe saying gal. Whatever. Callback. Okay. The second argument to the callback function is the number of columns in the result. The third argument to the callback is an array of pointers to strings obtained as if from the column text, one for each column. If an element of a result role is null, then the corresponding string pointer callback is a null pointer. The fourth argument is the array of pointers to strings where each entry represents the name of the corresponding result column. Okay. But what is the first argument? Is that just like if the callback wasn't used? Oh. Oh, I'm done. I not done. I'm dumb. I figured out what this argument is. So instead of having this sketchy callback reference here, I could just have a void pointer. It's not used. It is not used in the fact that like the example program was, oh, I am dumb. So this is the context that's being passed in. So here I'm gonna say that this is the callback. So instead of using like a sketchy static pointer, I'll just pass it in to the void pointer that they left us to use for anything. So we're gonna call this it's the actual callback. And then we don't need this as part of our thing. We just need the argc, argv, and the column names. That's all we need. See, stream is paused on my phone again for some reason. Oh, there we go, it's moving again. Maybe? Maybe I just don't move very often. I'm not sure. Yep, I'm seeing myself move. Alright, I'll just assume that the stream is having no problems whatsoever. And I just won't look back at it, so I will never know. Alright, back to coding. So we actually want to this callback, we want to dereference it as a what do you cast to a function pointer? I always have to refresh myself on what a function pointer looks like. So because of the way you define them, I'm not quite sure how to cast back to them, convert between pointers to data and pointers to functions. You're just not supposed to do by axis. Void pointer. I could just do a type definition. Maybe. see, so it would be return type, pointer, and then the arguments. And now actually, I want to cast it to this. Okay. Then I can just replace this with that. See, the great thing about standard function is it doesn't have all of this nonsense. So I can just go into here, replace this as well, and then instead of trying to do this, I can just cast callback to SQL callback function pointer, and then dereference that. There we go. Got it. So callback reference, we no longer need to do that. We can just pass this into there. Like so. And let's cast it to a void pointer so it does not complain anymore. There we go. This void pointer here anymore. And there we go. Now this callback probably won't be called because the call we're doing here doesn't return any values. So we won't really need to worry about it too much. So let's do a few more SQL calls. But in here, let's just put something in here so we know if it's being called or not, because I'm just curious. Oh, I bet argc is going to be 0 because we return nothing. So, created table, and then I'm just going to pass argc without any context because why not? It's for debugging. We'll fix it all later. End line, just like so. And let's copy this. And now we're going to insert a user into this table with the insert into. Now I know SQL, but it's been a hot minute since I've actually used it. So we're going to insert into users, values, And then, right. We need to have the column name and then the, come on, Brane. Come on. We put the columns in here, and then the values of the columns in there. So we're inserting the username and the, no, I don't want to run anything. And then the user ID. And for user ID, let's do 0. And for username, and just to be careful, let's make this, escape that. And this should also return nothing. So we'll say that we inserted user. And let's create a third call. And this third call will be select. We're going to select user ID and username from users. Or we could just select all, but I'm too lazy. And we only get one array for all of the data. So what I'm assuming is that values loop. Excuse me. So if we have argc, so this is the argument count. So that is how many columns? Yeah, the number of columns in the result. An array of pointers to the strings obtained. If an element of a result, yep. Okay. So I'm gonna say for I in argc. We're just gonna print out every single one of them. Argument. No, I don't want to run anything. I want to move my cursor to the left. So for argument I, that argument equals arg value I. So we can test out my hypothesis of the columns just looping by just running this twice, and that's all we need to do. So we're gonna stop and rerun. We've built successfully. No errors. Ooh, look at that. It worked on the first time. Let's go. we inserted user, and for some reason argc returned 2. Interesting. Oh wait, I just accidentally left the callback cout in there. So selecting users arguments returned. There we go. Now it's a little bit more accurate. And now let's see what happens if we run it again. Will it complain because I have duplicate stuff in there? Or is all the stuff with like unique keys MySQL stuff? All right, so we have 2 users with the same index. Oh, the callback is called twice. That makes sense. So the callback is called once per every row in the database that returns. That makes more sense. I can work with that. All right, now let's work on, well, first, now that we have the database working, I need a good way to debug it rather than just running stuff. And that's what I downloaded this for. It is a database browser, and it's SQLite database browser. Since SQLite is a free and open source library, even though the code running it is specific, that the code running my database is included in my project, this tool should be able to directly access it. So let me just copy the path. Like so, paste it in here. Asset server database, database.db. And look at that. We can see our users. Browse table. Look at that. It's beautiful, isn't it? All right. Now, can I actually edit it from here? So I can set it to null. Can I delete this row? Yep. And that's what I wanted to do. So now what I'm going to do is, we already have the table in there. And we'll look into like automatically initializing a database later. For now, we'll just settle for manually creating tables. But yeah, so we have SQL call. You could just call SQL. This is great. All right. What was I gonna do next? Right, use this for passwords and users. So username, username could be our unique identifier. I would like to use a user ID. I'll implement it later. Mind blank. Right, to the server code. So we go to the HTTP server. And now we scroll to create account, because this is the first place that we're going to have to use it. So now we have our new user. And then let me see if I can, so we can insert a new record. Can we add a new row? Modify table. Yes. We also want to have an email address. So we add email to our user field. And this is going to be a varchar. And I'm going to say 32 for those longer emails. Ooh, not null, automatic increment. So this is what I'll... Oh, you can literally just say primary key and auto increment in the command. This is something I actually did not learn in my SQL class. So it's not actually just a hoodie. This is a full robe. Behold. Alright, my flexing is done. Back to the code. So there we go. We now have users, user ID, username, and email. So I don't need to save the project. Alright, it should just work now. Yes, we are switching to using SQLite. I didn't really want to use MySQL or MongoDB because I wanted everything contained in the project. This code right here is already going to be going on a server dedicated to serving assets, so I'm like, it's kind of dumb to have it being connected to another server program when it should just be able to handle itself. And then I did some research and I discovered SQLite, which is just you include the code in your project. So I just have all the code for SQLite right here in these 4 files, and then I can just use SQL, which is a class I got an A in. So I should be able to do it. But yeah, you missed me doing all of the abstraction stuff, so now we just have database, SQL call, and then I just type in the string of the SQL with a callback that I still need to copy, stuff over for. Wait a second. I'm having idea. I can just abstract stuff away so that I can actually remember it and be human readable. So let's go here. And for our SQL callback function, that is totally spelled correctly on the first try. Let's see, ignore the errors behind the curtain. There we go. Now it is correctly named. So instead of this argc, argv, archaic C stuff, instead, let's do something fancy. No. Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to have a new struct. We're going to call this column, SQL column. And what this is going to store is the column name and the column value. So I'm still gonna store them as C strings, since they're not too difficult to work with. So character, pointer, name, chart, pointer, value. And this will just be our, well, the name and value of our columns. And then, this is where it gets fancy. For our callback function, instead of all of this, we can just return a vector. And we can even be more fancy and have this be constant. Constant vector of SQL columns. SQL column. I did name that correctly, right? Actually, let's make this public as well, because it needs to be after it. There we go. Beautiful. So now here, SQL function callback. Vector SQL column columns, and we are going to initialize this with a size of arg c, just like that. Now for all of arg count, we are going to columns. Does this? I think this initializes it to that size, so we can just access it by index. So the name is going to be az column name I, and then columns I dot value is going to be arg value I. There we go. And now instead of all of this, we just pass in columns. And now over in, where was I? HTTP server. You can just say constant standard vector of database SQL column. And this is probably more typing, but like I can actually remember it now. There we go. And this needs to return something. Actually, I'm gonna just move. Nah. Yeah, let's keep the return in the callback, and let's capture everything by reference. So now, instead of creating a new user JSON object, instead, we first need to do an SQL call to see if the user exists. So let us use our fancy select statement. Select where condition, and I believe the condition we want is username equals the username the user is trying to use. So we're going to say select Gonna say use select username from, actually we can just select everything, doesn't matter. Select star from users where username equals, and this is where it gets a little hairy, because what we need is the username that people are trying to use. So we're going to need to format string. So I wonder, because we still need to return a C string. Let's use standard string. It's a little bit messy, but it works. Actually, no. It will automatically cast to a string if I just concatenate it with a string. I think. Yeah. Oh, and since it's my abstracted function, I don't have to deal with... It's already casting it to a standard string. Alright. I was stressing over nothing. Okay, so select star where thing equal thing. So this should... The callback should not be called. So we'll just have a bool. We'll call it username taken. And we'll initialize it to false. Oh, too much Python for me. There we go. And we only need to capture username. So we'll just capture username taken by reference, like so. So if our username is taken, then we want to set content. Actually, we want to do the 2 lowercase thing beforehand. So if the username is taken, all right. Hey, thank you. You don't need to rewatch it, but I appreciate it. Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, if they do some sort of Thanks for the heads up on that. I can actually work that into the lowercasing function right here, because to stop any sort of to prevent any injection, somebody would need to close out of this string right here with the tick mark, or a double well, no, double quotes wouldn't do anything, but I'm gonna blacklist both of them. So if username I is, actually we should probably have a list of blacklisted characters, or just a list of whitelisted characters. But for now, we'll just blacklist the ones that could cause problems. So if username I is equal to, and it needs to be a character of a tick, or username I is equal to a quote, then we will return and tell the user just gonna say invalid characters, no other context. You'll just have to guess at which ones are invalid, I guess. But yeah, now they shouldn't be able to inject any SQL into here, just because they won't be able to close out of the comment, and therefore can't run any code. They'll just have a really weird username. So select from users where username is equal to username. If username is taken, we set username taken to true. If username is taken, tell them that it's taken. And instead of writing a file, we are going to do an SQL insert. And we don't need our callback to do anything, since this shouldn't return anything. And we're going to do an SQL insert. Insert into users. Insert into users. Values. Or we can just do columns. And the user ID is now auto-incrementing, so we don't need to worry about that. So we can just say enter into users username, and then also email. This means I'll have to check the username for invalid stuff as well. I'll just do a to-do here. Validate email is valid email. Right here. First we need the username, but we want to get the not lowercase one. So we'll just read the header again, because I'm lazy. read username plus comma and then another plus. This is supposed to make it easier to read. I don't know if it's doing that. Values, username, email.
I just wanted to say.
All right, and that should do the trick. I think, possibly, maybe. We should be able to at least create a user now. We're not storing a password for them anymore because I want to put that in a separate table and then like link it and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So yeah, let's just test this out and try creating a user. All right, let's log in, create account. Oh, come on. The reason I'm using a private browser is so that private window so I won't dox myself with my email, but apparently it's still there. Whatever. So we're gonna create WireWiz with a password of doesn't matter. And we have created an account. SQL error near @nicely. Okay. I know what this is. The problem is that we didn't say that they were strings. Actually, I can just add that onto the end there. All right, restart server. All right, submit. No errors, which means if I go here, browse table, look at that. Look at that. We have a user ID of 1, username WireWiz, email, my actual private email. Don't look at that. We'll change this to the admin. No. Actually, okay. Let's try creating it again. So it's not giving us an error for, yeah, see this? Wait a second. Oh, yep. Yep. So what's happening is I'm comparing it against the lowercase version of the username, when what we should be doing is Let's see, SQL, look for string, select string, case insensitive. Is there a way to make case insensitive? Where upper, okay. Where lower username equals username. Okay. Now let's try restarting the server with that taken into account. And then let's delete all the duplicate records. And then, do we need to save it? Or did it already do it? Okay. Okay, now if I do this again, username, syntax error. Okay, it needs to be in brackets because it's like a function. Got it. Where lower username. Rebuild. And try again. Up, there we go. Username taken. Let's try this with another one. Oh, accidentally created another one of those. Ah, that is very, very nice. Okay, now the question, do I continue streaming and try to get passwords working with a table join, or do I just end the stream now? Because that leaves us with something to look forward to next time. But also, I kind of just want to do it now because stuff is like working. We're doing progress. Getting progress. But also, if I end now, it ends on a high note, which is very nice. But also, if I end stream, I'm probably gonna just do it off stream. Decisions. Well, my entire day tomorrow is free, so we could have a long, lengthy afternoon stream during the daytime when it's not midnight, and then my sleep schedule won't be too messed up for the early morning classes that I keep missing. So I think it'd probably be better for my mental and school health to end the stream now. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow, and yeah, let's try stop streaming this way. We'll not be able to reconnect. Yep.